Hello, everyone. Welcome back to SureFire Live. Thank you for joining me tonight. Tonight, I have special guest Anthony Valerio. Many of you know him from Facebook and social media. He's pretty active. I've known him for a couple of years now and watched him grow in many ways. And we're going to talk about that tonight, how he is doing it. Like I said, the good, the bad, the ugly. There's no there's no easy way. You don't get out of it without scars and hits and learns and all those things. Anthony's also a member of kind of a mastermind we have with SureFire called SureFire Accelerator, and he's been an active member of that, and also he's and family guy and everything, so he's got his hands full. Again, this is a two-way conversation. I get a lot of comments and I don't get a lot of comments, but I will see them eventually and try to answer them, even if I don't see them live on the show. But part of what makes this show very interesting is that we have live interaction and people, have a big part of how the show flows. So with that being said, let me bring Anthony on. I messed him up, so we're going to talk about how bad I am of a host. Hey, man, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Mark.
Thank you for being here. So sometimes when I'm putting these shows together, it can get ugly. And sometimes when guys are working and living life, I am not the best communicator. And I told him the wrong date for the show. So he just told me, he said, man, I'm sorry. I had the different date. It was my fault. But then he bought food for his family and he turned around to be on this show and Ubered the phone home. Is that right?
Yep.
Oh my.
But to give some context too, my wife Laura was like, "Oh, it's just classic Anthony messing the dates up." So it's not like I don't do it either.
Okay. All right. Well, great. Well, so Anthony, thank you for joining us. I know this is the middle of busy season, and you're in the middle of growing a young, dynamic company. And a lot of people know who you are, but can you tell people just a little background about you? Because I know you really started on the masonry side, if I remember right, and
Yep.
you moved to the chimney side. A lot of people start chimney and move masonry, and that's a whole different animal. You went one way, and I know there's a few other people that have done that, but not very many. Can you explain kind of what your background is and what brought you into the chimney business?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, I'm a fourth generation Mason. That was always like the main thing. I grew up working with my family, technically illegally at a young age, but professionally, when I was 18, took off with it. My family always focused on fireplaces and chimneys. That was always a main focus, but it wasn't the only one. We did a lot of historic restoration, brick steps, pointing, just general masonry too. And it seemed like chimneys only fell kind of during the fall time. And so that's what I knew. That's what I started with in the beginning. And that's part of it too, is you went through a name change, which are still kind of on the tail end almost, but it used to be Four Winds Masonry and Chimney, and then I dropped the masonry, and now it's just straight Four Winds Chimney. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
So what do you like better, masonry or chimney?
definitely Chimney.
You
I mean,
do?
I do. Yeah, it's nice to focus on one thing too, and really it helped with staying consistent too. With as we grew, like with the guys, helped with staying consistent in the way we were quoting things and what we knew. Um, so it was nice to specialize that and drop the masonry side. And really, the competition was much different on flat work and pointing. What we were finding was like we were getting underbid by so many companies, so much that just wasn't worth it anymore.
Yeah.
I
A lot of
love,
landscape companies, a lot of just handymen and people doing that work, and
yeah, yep,
we
yep,
found a very similar thing.
yep, agreed. That's right on.
So, I've seen you in several courses, classes. You kind of are the quiet guy in the room, but I notice you're quiet in the room when you're learning, but then you go back and implement, man. You are just an implementer. You're a quiet guy, but you get your head down, you start implementing. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about, your journey from starting this business and like what you've learned education wise that has helped you do what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for that, Mark. Uh, I came in like knowing the work really well. I could do the work. I love doing the work, and definitely on the business side of things. Like I had worked with one company that was a pretty good business coach in a way. It taught me a lot of what to do, mostly what not to do, which was a really good lesson
It's
too.
handy, yeah.
Yeah. So I started. I was working for kind of like a landscape company. I moved away from my family. They're about an hour and a half away. Started with a landscape company, and I was running their like chimney division. Is kind of what we started. It was, and it wasn't really working like that. There wasn't like the proper. People weren't on payroll. They were one week, they weren't another week. Definitely didn't have the proper
Wow.
insurance. But that was also very normal for what I was used to growing up with, kind of a lot of
Right.
cash stuff. And so the short of it is I fell off a roof when I was working for that company.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. Ended up with 29 pins and 2 feet of plates in my left leg. And the bigger thing was that was 5 days before my wife had breast cancer, which she's beat and everything, but she had
Wow.
a double mastectomy scheduled.
Oh,
And
wow, my
so
God.
I went from like being like I'm supposed to be the caretaker to nothing. I mean, I was under the table, so there was no real money coming in, and I was couch bound for almost 6 months. She was laid up too, just as much, and I remember just sitting there, and I'm like, went from like feeling like here I am, time to step up, Anthony, be the caretaker, to just being couch bound. And I'm like, I'll never go through this again. I'll never put somebody through this if they work for me. And that was the driving force for us with that. And started up, and it was with, I had a lot of people telling me in the beginning, you'll only make money if you do cash jobs. You're not gonna. You'll see what it's like. Why I couldn't afford the proper insurance. You'll see why I couldn't afford payroll. Just so many like you'll sees of that. If I bought into that, was very self defeating.
Wow.
It just was a mission to like prove that wrong. And I put post-it notes everywhere in my truck, in my office, of like to prove the you'll sees wrong. And so
So you got a little chip on your shoulder a little bit.
I do well when it's like that. So
I like that.
yeah,
I found a lot of people in this business, especially, have a little chip. They're like, I'm going to show you that this is going to work. I'm going to show you you're wrong. I remember my dad personally told me, Mark, this is a bad idea. You can't do it. My mom wasn't proud of me. Like that little, that little chip on my shoulder. I'm like, I can make this work. Even later when the business was a real struggle for me, my CFO said, Mark, this isn't really working. You could go work for somebody else or do something else. I'm like, man, I'm going to make it work. So I know that feeling. I think that's a good driving force. I got,
because you've talked about too how your family. I don't know if they had failed businesses, but small businesses, right?
yes. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then, so I remember
And
say that.
well, and something like happened to you and happened to me. They got hurt. My mom got sick
Yep.
and the business collapsed. My brother-in-law crushed his hand in an accident while framing houses. He took a medication that gave him vertigo. He couldn't work anymore. I came from a family of making very small businesses, and something happened to the owner and the business collapsed.
Yeah.
And was building the same thing. And I'm lucky, and you're lucky, that it happened in a stage of life where it changed your thought process about what I'm building and how vulnerable you are. There's some people that don't like that we talk about building businesses, but what I think they miss is how vulnerable you are if you
Yeah.
don't.
Yep. Yep.
Like, there's a piper to pay either way. Yes, it's harder to do it and to coach people up and deal with people, and it's all on you, and keep it small and keep it all. But man, keep it small and you can lose it all too. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah. 100%. 100.
uh, got a quick comment here. So I can't tell who this is. It says, how's the great busy season doing? I've been going, Anthony. Love this time of year. New customers booking into the summer. So early on, they said, they said, how's it going for you? So give guys an update of how it's going this year.
It's been good. The start was rough for us. We went through some staff changes, which was nice because I remember in that accelerator group, one of the first meetings I think we had, it seemed like a lot of people were going through that too, and which was nice because it was definitely stressful, and we lost some like top producers, people that have been with us for a while, and just major roles here, and so that was hard to transition from that. We hired up some good people. What was awesome is we had people step up and take on those roles that were ready to be leads, and we kind of, I would say, over the last 2-3 weeks, things have panned out really well. And it seems like we're definitely rocking. We're rocking. I mean, I think we're booking. We just started booking into January. We tried to control that, so taking it from your book, from your playbook, tried to stay. And Alan was big too. Tried to stay 2 or 3 weeks booked out. No matter what I did, we just keep it at that. So.
It's a great idea. I agree. I mean, I struggle, but my focus is always to keep that wait time low for people.
Yeah.
And do as best I can to be a fast reactor to customers.
Yeah.
It's funny. Justin Fell says stacking chips. So chips on your shoulder. Like, I think Justin may have a couple of chips too.
Yeah.
And then somebody says, don't let your guys be couch bound. So with that, with the challenges of new people, I thought it was interesting in our accelerator meeting yesterday where the speaker talked about early on, you're kind of like a SEAL team when you're a small group of guys, 10 guys, and you guys are you're generalists and everybody wears all the hats and everybody kind of learns that. And then as you grow, you move into more specialists.
Yep.
And the guys look back, and I had this meeting with some of my guys today. I said, I heard what it was that we went through. We were a SEAL team, and now we're more of a corporation, and everybody's specialists. And you guys kind of liked it when you were all generalists because you guys could all do everything. And now you're in repair crew, you're in gas crew, you're in estimating, you're in management. Where are you like with that growth pattern? I know you guys are a SEAL team. I can watch you guys on Facebook. You guys look like that,
yeah.
But you're growing into complexity. Like, do you feel that?
Yeah, I thought that was really good when Drew said that, because I've always felt, I don't know if it was like not unique, but like that like my core group of guys like put in just more than others. And really it's because we just haven't been in business that long. We this February will be the finish of our 5 years, so it was cool to hear him say that. And I'd say we're probably like on the other side of that now. Last year this time was the big shift for us. A management team got built up that was new for us, because I used to have this core group that could just do everything. You didn't tell them what to do, they just always put it in. They still put it in. And then it became like more and more people added on. Well, how do I control the quality of the work that we do? And so the management team became really crucial. I'd say last year we built the company up management wise like it could be like a $10 million company. It needed that kind of management and overseeing happening, that kind of structure. So it positioned us well for future growth, but it was definitely a learning lesson and investment last year. So
talk about, well, how big, what size company are you running now, and what do you want to run? What's on the horizon for you guys?
Yeah, so we have about 30 people now. We run anywhere from 10 to 11 crews. I think we're almost tapped out for our market here in this area. So I started up a small spot in Geneva, which is about an hour from us, hour and some change, which is nice because it gets us, an hour beyond that too, 45 minutes beyond that. So I think right now I'm really happy with where things are at. And, Geneva, a local town I'm partial to because I grew up there. So I'd like to get something going there. but that's it. I think, Rochester market, we're good where we're at. It's sustainable. We have a really good system going. I'm happy with that. And I think if anything, we have a couple small spots that we operate out of. But if it doesn't happen as well, if it doesn't happen, I'm also good with that. So
So you're good. You guys grew fast. I mean, from in 5 years business, you're at 10 trucks, 30 people.
yeah,
That's a really 10 to 10 plus trucks, I should say. That is a really good growth plan. There's a lot of guys who work 5 years and there's still 1, 2 trucks. I know I worked 17 years. No, it's still one truck. So to see some of the growth of new companies, young companies like yourself, and there's several others that are really focused on this business thing better than we ever have been, I think is exciting. So you feel like you might be a little bit tapped out in the market you're in. You're looking at new markets. Does that mean, are you going to kind of keep growing at a fast rate? Or are you going to stabilize what you got? Like, what do you think?
yeah.
You looking at your back at your business, what do you want to do, and how are you gauging that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm tapped into the flow and the temperature of the business pretty well, and I think a lot of it is stabilizing kind of where we're at. We're in a good spot with that. I'm also just trying to enjoy that too, and part of one of my biggest mistakes I feel was uh, putting too much into the business and not enough for my family. So this year I've kind of stepped back a little bit and I've made more family time and made that the
Yeah.
priority. But I feel like we're in a great spot. It's bigger than I ever thought it could be, ever thought it would be. The Geneva thing has kind of been happening naturally for us with the amount of calls we've been getting out there. So that's where I feel like we're at. Like things are nice, they're going good. We have good overwatch on stuff. I don't want to lose sight on quality. I say that all the time. I will drop down to one truck in a heartbeat if it means my name, our quality, Four Winds name, is being jeopardized. And that's
What do
the
you What do you think the key to your early to the growth so fast was? Like, if somebody's watching this thing and like, man, I just can't get it to happen. I can't get the people. I don't have the market. Like, what would you tell them that you did or that they need to watch?
I mean, part of it was I got involved. I mean, like, and it was nose to the grindstone. I got involved with the classes, and it was all stuff of people saying, "Do this," like your stuff.
Yeah.
Read books, podcasts, go to the trainings. I mean, I got involved, and that was it. The chips on the shoulder definitely helped. They were like a guiding force. But when you say like, I think it's much easier if you want to today to scale a company up, and just
Yeah.
with the amount of resources that are available.
Yeah.
And part of that was like I always knew in the back of my head that if I took the risk, if I took the chance, and it failed, I knew what I could produce with one truck.
Yes.
But I always
Yes.
went back to, and
I think that is key. I think you hit it on the head right there, because there's a confidence you have internally that, like, if all else fails, I know how to do
yeah,
this stuff.
yeah,
And I think the key to that too, if you're listening, is you got to do it as soon as possible. This isn't something that you want to do when you're older. Like, if you at all want what Anthony has, or any people that built their businesses up, if 10 trucks sounds good to you, which 10 trucks was one of my big goals. I remember, I talk about this a lot. I remember one truck, and I saw Jim Brewer had 10 trucks back in early 2000. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And that just set 10 trucks seem like, wow, that's a different life at 10 trucks. And you can verify that it is a different life for you. You have choices, you have options. I always say the thing I wanted in business, the thing that business affords me is options. I can work harder, or I can take time off. I
yeah,
can I can pour into something, or I can volunteer. And
yeah,
I'm noticing that about you, that you worked hard and you're getting options now at this stage of business. You
yeah.
know, would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, that's right on the money. I mean, and this year has been probably the testament to that, and I'm very grateful I got to have the team I have. I mean, I still have my core group that I started with, and they just rock it. I mean, I feel like they make it very easy for me to do what I do. You know, they know this year like it was my redirect back to family, and it comes and goes. So, you know, definitely focus on family time. When I do want to kick stuff up, like you said, I can, and just more options. I'm not bound to one thing
Yeah.
anymore.
So what I think probably people are starting to come to you to other chimney companies, people just starting, they see you out there. I bet you're starting to do a little consulting yourself and people wanting to help them. Is that coming along too?
Yeah, I remember you said that to me out out in Vegas that it'll start happening. John Caesar said it too, and it definitely has. You know, and it's new and uncomfortable for me because I'm like, who the hell am I? Like, you know, I just looked at the guys that came before me and tried to copy what they did. Like, I definitely didn't invent anything. I remember when I hired a media company, I was looking up Ashbusters, and I'm like, I want my content to look like this, and you know, and that's what's nice. It's like it's
And
all
your
out.
content looks great. Again, content really builds your brand. You've done a great job of that.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely been a big piece. But same thing. It's been, you know, no need to reinvent the wheel. Like there was companies out there doing it, and I'm like, this is what I want. So
Exactly. You're doing exactly to me what the right thing is like, follow and just copy and,
yeah,
make it your own, but copy the big things, make it your own until you're the leader and then reach back and help the next guy. And to me, it's exciting to see you guys go so fast because I want to see you guys just do whatever you want in life. There's no size that matters. There's no big or small. It's doing what you wanted to do in this business and not looking back saying, I wish I would have done something different, or I should have done this or shouldn't have done that. Like you're out there doing it and you know the good and the bad of it. So, and I noticed, so on another step, you're starting to go along the entrepreneurial journey and you started another business.
yeah,
So you're in so tell people what the other business you started as. It seems like it's almost a sister company, but it's tell
yeah.
people what you started.
So back like when, you know, we had the masonry side added in, what my family always did in the slow months is they did basement waterproofing, basement drainage. So I'm like, you know, I'll add that on to get us through the slow time. But then there never was a slow time, so it just didn't happen.
Right.
And so I hired a guy on the chimney side who was an 18 player in the basement waterproofing industry. You know, was burnt out at his last job and just wanted to do something different. Hired him on, and it just kind of naturally worked out. You know, what I liked about it was he was an 18 player. He only wanted to do it if we were installing this certain kind of product. It's a premium product, premium system. And then I also realized, kind of in that as much as I love chimneys and fireplaces, I've also learned that I love just kind of just being in business. Like
Yeah.
I like giving people opportunity. I mean, it's twofold. Like they give me the opportunity to do that, but I love creating an environment that can foster others to hit goals in life.
Yeah.
And so Storm, the basement waterproofing company, was like that. You know, I believed in like if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it right and do it the best. And Dave Crawford, the guy that who runs that, does that. I mean, he embodies that, and so that's also taken off. And this February will be a year for that. That has 5 people working there. We're getting ready to add a second crew here soon, and that's been really good too. So
Well, good for you. That again, I think you hit it with providing opportunity for others because not everybody wants to be the leader. Not everybody should be the leader. Also, not everybody wants to start their own business or do their own business, and they shouldn't. So you need a team. Like I always say, like I'm the guy with the machete out there and I'm cutting the way. But if you leave it up to me, I'll just cut a path through the woods, but looking behind me, the path will get overgrown And
Yeah.
so I need people behind me, they need me to cut the path and pick the direction, but I need them behind me, keeping the path clear, making the path so more people can come. Also saying, hey, you're getting off a little to the left or to the right, got a blind spot. Please change direction. But we need each other. And it seems like that you're finding your sweet spot in leadership and visionary, but
Yeah.
also if all else fails, you can jump up and do the 360 tomahawk dunk and lay the brick if you need to.
That's right.
Like I find that to be a very good way to build a business, because you really know it and the guys really believe you because you know it.
Know it.
And so talk about the next step that you've taken in your journey. Well, let me back up. Let's talk about what's the hardest thing about running a business today?
Yeah. It's weird because like yesterday was one of those days of like, and things are going well too, and but where stuff just gets piled on. I think the hardest thing that I have been trying to focus on now is keeping the culture going here, keeping the vibe, the feeling that I want people to feel working here. And I've realized that sometimes comes and goes for me. It was different when I had direct communication with guys in the field every single day, because I was constantly talking about where I want Four Winds to go and what it could be like here. And that's what got people bought into that, invested in it. It's different when I'm not in the field like that anymore.
Yeah.
And
I feel like I'm listening to myself talk.
I bet.
You are so accurate. You're so
Yeah,
accurate.
I bet. And so that was hard for me. And like, I realized I could have an impact. Then stuff comes up, and you're like, well, how much impact am I really having? Or do I even still believe in it like that anymore? And luckily, like through podcasts and trainings I've gone to, like I've seen these bigger businesses not lose sight of that. And I'm like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And so I go back to what I know works, like be genuine to others, build people up, provide opportunity. And you can see the spark that creates in people. But I'd say that's the biggest, is learning now how, kind of what my new role is. My biggest thing is how I want people to feel working here. How do I keep that going? So
Well, you're a genuine heart guy, and you're right. People talk about company culture, and I say, company culture is a moving target. There can be times it's amazing, and everybody's hitting on the same cylinder. And and sometimes you can take one person that goes south, and it drags culture. You can take a group. Also, the same people can shift in where they are in life, where they are in the season, or something happened to them. And culture is a thing that you must work to maintain and find a good level culture. But you enter a new pay structure, and I was talking about that yesterday, and all of a sudden it can shift culture instantly. You had the best culture, we won all the awards and have all the team things, and all of a sudden you throw one little grenade in there that you have to change as a manager or as a company owner, and then all of a sudden you have a different culture, like instantly. And to what you said about, oh, I lost him. I hope we didn't lose the whole broadcast. So hopefully it's still working. Hopefully you can sign back on. I'll watch for him. But anyway, that culture thing can change on you instantly. And so it sounds like he's seeing that. I'm going to answer a couple questions here while he signs back on. Let me see if he's trying to sign on, if he sends me a message. Sorry guys, we had a little technical difficulty. I don't see him on here. So he is, let me just make it sure. Nope, he's not on there. Okay. So this says Justin Fell, who's a Chimney Company guy. It says, if you guys have moved on the convo, feel free to ignore the answer offline. I have the chips, meaning he has the drive. I like that. I have the chips. I think I might use that, man. Do you have the chips? I have the market. I have the ability. One thing that I don't hear talked about much is how to attract and retain good talent when you are small and don't have a solid brand. It's hard to recruit opposed to hiring. Yeah, right. So when you don't have as much to offer to these bright, hardworking people, when you have a decent sized company, already much easier to pull good talent and select. I don't know why I can't see the rest of it. Let me see if I can see it over here. And be selective, I think is what it says. It won't let me see the show. Let me see. I can't see the rest of it. Okay. So That being said, yeah, be selective. So thank you for telling me that. Great topic. So let me just see. Anthony just says, I don't know what happened. Yeah, I don't know. Me either, Anthony. Try the link again. All right. It's the great thing about going live. All right. All right. So I'll watch for him to come on. So to your point, Justin, I would like Anthony to be on this to answer it too, but I'm going to answer it the way I think about it. When I was small, it was about you coming to work for me. Nobody had the dream of being a chimney sweep. So I had to make it more personal. And I also had to tell them where we're going. I said, hey, I'm going to work on growing this company. You're on the ground floor. I have great mentors. I have people to help me. This is what I'm going to do. But early on, um, I lost a lot of people that started their own chimney company because as soon as they learned what I was doing, plus I was working out of my house or my garage or a storage unit, they're like, I can do that. And then also when I would say do a $5,000 job and I'd pay them hourly, say 25 bucks an hour, 20 bucks an hour. Let's just say, I think that was a lot back when I was doing hourly, but they would say make $200 for the day, which I thought was pretty good money, but they bring me a check for 5,000. They're like, oh shoot, I can do that. So to your point, Justin, I lost a lot of people early, a lot. In fact, nobody is with me at all. I mean, really, I have one guy with me that was here, and he started in 2007. One guy still left from that. All those 20 plus years before that, nobody's still with me. So, I always heard that, people will not, you're the only one that'll be left at the end, So to your point, Justin, you have all those things. They've got to be attracted to you as the leader. They have to believe in you. You have to be a good leader. Because if nobody's following you, you have to realize that it's probably you or what you're putting out there. And now I'm not saying we all have things to work on. I was your buddy first, leader second. Let me see. And then as I started to get people first, the story was I'd hire anybody, man. Thanks for coming to work for me, man. I'm so thankful. Thank you for being with me. Oh, you got a drug problem? That's no problem. If I just love up on you and we're buddies, you'll stop doing that. Oh, you got a drinking problem? Oh, no problem. I'll fix that. You just need better leadership in your life. You'll stop drinking. Well, I didn't know I don't do that stuff, but I didn't know that doesn't work either. Like I can't fix people. I went in early thinking you needed a better opportunity and I could help you. That's not how it works. You need to join my club. And if you want to have a better opportunity, I'll provide it, but you have to take it. I can't force it. I can't make you a better person. You have to want to be a better person. And then I just, it's dance with the willing, right? You can't force them to do it. So to your point, Justin, it's still very frustrating at your size, and you do have to get some momentum. So your main thing is getting momentum, figuring out how to do it, bringing the people on, read all the books, all the leadership books, all the self-development books, read those things because by the time you read it and it becomes you may have missed several good people coming along because you didn't have these skills. So you actually gotta fertilize the ground first before you start planting roots and getting people in there. They won't stay with you if you're not a good leader. If you're a weak leader, you'll build a weak company. I was just speaking to a person in our industry that's well known, and he's going to talk about this maybe in a couple months when things settle down with the situation he's going through. But he's working with a company, and he noticed that the leadership made sure everybody that worked for him was kind of on a low level. They were pushed down. They were below him and didn't know as much as him. So he was the king leader. Well, you'll always have a very weak company if you will not grow leaders. And ideally, you get a lot of people better than you in all these different areas. And then you have a really strong company. If you're always the smartest guy in the room, the toughest guy, the best at everything, well, you're not going to grow a great company. If you grow a bunch of leaders and you become fans of them, you see how great they are at stuff, man, you've got something. And so just understand leadership before you before you try to leave. Oh, looks like he's coming back. Here he comes. Hey, stranger.
Yeah, everything dropped, even my phone.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you must have some kind of outage.
Yeah,
Well, is everything good? You still good?
yeah,
It's still you're glitchy, so hopefully it'll work. So I just answered a question from Justin Fell, and he said, and basically it was, how do you? And I answered the question, but I want you to answer it. When you're real small, how do you attract and retain talent when you don't have the solid brand? You don't have all the glittery and shiny stuff. You're just the guy starting. How did you get a team that built and stayed with you and stayed behind you as you grew it?
yeah. That's definitely a good question. Is it coming in okay?
You're coming in fine right now. Yes, thank you.
Um, I think it's, for me, it was on like a personal level. Like, it went back to, I was bringing these guys on that I felt responsible to, and some kind of buy-in in the beginning. You need people to buy into that. And so what that took on my side was like constantly talking about it, demonstrating how I want it to be here, how I want it to be better for all of us here. And, for me, I was out there with them every day, so it was easy. And I just would constantly hit that home. I think, if I would have got caught up in just the jobs, just focusing on getting jobs done, nothing else, counting every dollar, that kind of, you could lose sight of that pretty easily. So I think it just takes a constant kind of reaffirming to your core people, the people that you have there, to build that up, tell them how you want it to be, tell them what you see their role becoming, and then following through. We did. It's even as simple as every step along the way. When we added a desk, when we added a computer, those were all celebrated by the group. Those were big. Those were big. From where we came from, those were big steps. So
Yeah. Great. It's funny. I said something similar. You didn't hear me say it, but it was about forecasting the future for them. It was about them believing in you as a leader that you could do it. A lot of these people have never had somebody that really cared about them. They never had a strong male figure in their life. They never had somebody that was solid and that believed back in them and that they could look to and go, you know what? I want to be like that guy, or I want to be like that lady. Like, leadership is so key early. It's key later, but I should say this, it's always key. The better leader you are, the faster you can do anything in this life. The better buy-in you have, the more things you can get accomplished. If you want to get things accomplished in life, be a great leader for your family, for your community, for your business. Like, across the board, leadership is lacking in this country, and there's no sign that it's getting better down the road. Like, I'm not seeing great leadership. And then when somebody runs into a great leader, you can feel it. You know it. It has a feeling when you're with a great leader. And I say this all the time. I love to be led by a great leader. I'm a great follower, man. I'm right in there with you, but I don't have to lead. I don't have to. No problem. I'll follow. If I'm with a guy I can believe in, I'm right there with you. And to our point, I feel like Tommy Nelms in our industry is a great leader. I have no problem getting right in behind Tommy, and you are too. He's got a good heart. He's got good drive, good direction, man. I can get behind those guys all day long. So, and so to that point, Justin, I think you heard it now twice from us. You be the best you, and there'd be a bunch of people that will follow. Success has great magnetism. The more successful you are in all types of life, things start to come to you. So just foster that. Understand the role that you are. Take that stewardship seriously, and things come to you. I had a kind of a different question here. I'm not sure who Matt Robinson asked who our first supplier was. I don't know necessarily if he's a supplier. That's a big question. I don't know. I don't really want to get into brands here, but I can tell you this, Matt. If you're looking, who Anthony and I support supplier wise is suppliers who support our industry. I am a big supporter of suppliers who buy our advertisement, who support our shows, who do the national conventions, who put on training, who put into us. Those are the suppliers that win. The
Yeah.
suppliers just have cheaper on the outside or whatever. I don't really mess with them at all. The more you support our industry, the more I buy from you. Is that how do you feel? I notice you probably are similar.
Right on the money. I mean, the money is insignificant, not insignificant, something not insignificant. It's such a small part of it. Everything else can outweigh if you have the cheapest product or not. That is irrelevant for us. So sometimes.
Yeah, great point. So this is, I can't quite tell who this is. It says there are many benefits smaller companies offer. So I think it's answer some of your stuff, Justin. Apprentice with the owner, yes. Often an amazing tradesman, yes. Small companies can change direction faster, fact. The position can be tailored to the person. All those are very true. And I've done all those. I've tailored positions to people because I thought you could come in here, and I'm like, and I just did it today. The lady in our customer service division isn't great at data entry, but amazing on the phone. So I moved her role to be more phone forward, way more phone stuff, moved the data entry off her to somebody else, where that was always everybody did everything. And as we moved to be specialists, my thing as a leader is to look for those gaps and spaces where they're really strong here, but not utilized. And I'm having them do something that they suck at. Let's shift this to that point of tailoring. And you and I have talked about this a little bit when you called me about a question about moving people through. Do you do that? Do you tailor roles, or do you set the role first and put somebody in it?
I mean, I think both have happened. So a lot of times we'll set the role first, put someone in it, realize it's not their right seat on the bus. And I was at a training in Arizona, and they talked about that, about sometimes you just have to change the seats people are in.
Yeah,
And
they're
uh,
still on the bus. It's just a different seat.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and that can be huge. I mean, Drew even talked about that too in the accelerator group. You know, you find someone's strengths and build on that. And sometimes you don't know what their weaknesses are until you have them in a specific role. And
Yes.
I've tried to, I think with people, and that's exactly right. With a smaller company, you can definitely do that. You know, I also feel like we could do it at this stage pretty good. And what I liked, what I liked about growing was the opportunity I could provide people. And I felt like if I wasn't doing that, I was doing, and this is just me. So it's not a slight towards anybody that's not doing it. I felt like if I didn't create opportunity for the people that were buying into me, buying into the dream of Four Winds, that I was doing a disservice to them. And so with that, you know, I've done both. The people that, you know, I got a guy I'm moving into a production manager role in the spring, so we're prepping him for that. That's a natural fit for him.
Right.
Um, we got people we've shifted their role. I got a guy that just came out of repairs, is in sales now. Now he's one of my lead sales guys. Like,
Right.
you know, so I feel like we can always create that opportunity if someone has the drive for it.
I agree. I think especially early on, you're growing, they're growing, you're figuring things out, they're figuring things out. And then you really need to know, what their strength is. My metal fab whole division started because the guy was a terrible chimney technician. I talk about it all the time. He was the Tasmanian devil. He was terrible. Uh,
Yeah,
I knew he was kind of an artisan guy, but he didn't really like customers. He didn't like 4 to 6 jobs a day. He
yeah,
didn't like all the paperwork and sitting down with the customer at the table and writing all the estimates and talking and telling they needed. He hated it, and he was terrible. I told him, man, but he was making metal for us on the side. We say making metal, but doing chase covers and some basic stuff at his home, because he was actually as good as any place I could buy it from. So he was doing it. I said, we're going to move the metal shop inside. I'm going to take this back over. He didn't necessarily like that. He didn't totally trust that it was going to be a good move for him. I said, it's going to be great. Man, he just blossomed, and now he runs our metal fab division. He runs our powder coat division. Like, he just wasn't a technician, but I wanted him on the bus.
yeah,
And I think you're doing that too. Now, sometimes you cannot find their strength, or sometimes you don't want them on the bus. So talk about letting go of people.
yeah. This has been the year of that, and I, you know, we've always had really good retention. There's been a couple along the way. This year was, for us, was big. I think we lost 5 or 6 people this year, and um, I definitely hold on too long, and it's not unfortunate because definitely heard you talk about it countless times. I've heard it, I've read it, that when you get rid of that toxic person, how you just see other people step right up, and that's been obvious too. Like, so I knew that while it was all happening, but I hold on. I'm like, man, if he could just buy in, if he could just like, if that could just happen, and then same thing. Well, maybe I'll create a role for him where it doesn't really deal with the people, and I try to cater and cater and cater, and it's nothing against the individual at all. It's just doesn't jive with what we're trying to do here.
I
And
just found it hurts the people that are when I do that, and man, I have been, God, I feel like you're me like 10 years ago. What you're saying is, and even now you said you're doing the same things I run into, but I think when we lead with our heart and we want the best for people, we tend to make those things up in our brain
yeah,
that we can fix it because we're good at fixing things.
yeah,
And when it comes to people, my thing I've just learned that as I have to protect my good people, and me doing these things
mm,
doesn't necessarily protect those people that are playing. And the hardest thing for me, I'll tell you, the hardest fire is somebody that was great that isn't great anymore.
mm,
And I still believe in what they did, and I still believe in the battle they fought for me.
yeah,
Yet that time has come and gone. It's like an old quarterback for like, man, we won Super Bowls with that guy,
yeah,
but he's not the same dude. And the businesses moved on, maybe left them where they were a superstar, like they were a high school superstar athlete. They were great when Ashbusters was 10 years old, not when we're 30 years. You know what I mean? Like, that's the hardest for me, is letting go of those people who put in real time and fought real battles with me.
yeah. That's right on. That's cool to hear you talk about that because I definitely went through that this year because a couple of them have been with me, were with me for a while.
Yeah, they're
So
part of that SEAL team, right? They were
yeah,
in
yeah,
there, man.
yeah.
They
Those
were low crawling with you. They were hauling that mortar. They were
you know,
there.
80-hour weeks, like all of us putting it in together. And so and I feel like that's double sided. So it's like one, I also am grateful that I recognize that in people, and I'm that kind of person where I'm not going to lose sight of what somebody devoted to the company, devoted to me. On the same side of that, I really liked how you said you have to protect your good people, and that is it. And and so what we found this year is that getting rid of some people naturally leaving, created. I mean, we boomed afterwards because so many people stepped up. Plus the morale was better too. Like, it went back to like what it's like working here. It wasn't like what it's like working here for 95% of the people, but then this person we just make the exception for. It's like back to what works for us. So
It's tough. It is super tough when somebody no longer fits, or there's an issue, or they need to move on, and they won't because they're committed, but
yeah,
they're toxic, and or just not. I say this a lot. When somebody says I liked it back when we were smaller, it's a sign that they're about out of bandwidth to go to the next level. It's a bad sign. They
yeah,
think they're saying it in a way that makes me reminisce. But if I'm a forward looking company, I don't think like that. I can say, yeah, but we had problems back then too,
oh,
man. I mean, we were working the 80 hours. Remember, we
yeah,
decided we were going to fix stuff so we don't work the 80 hours.
yeah,
Like, we decided to fix stuff so we do have a different opportunity when we're 20 years older.
that's right.
Like, I appreciate that, but understand, if this is working, it's
Yeah,
working. Our lives are changing. But yeah, it's different. I always say you have headaches instead of backaches. You change the aches, but
yeah,
they're there.
yeah,
So, guys, we've got about 10 more minutes with Anthony. He has been super great to forego certain things. Food is one, and to share with him. To me, dude, you're just so real and relatable that I really appreciate how you do things. And I just recently got to know you. I see you in and out of certain things, but I never really got to talk. We talk a little
yeah.
bit, but like I said, you go back and get on it. So If somebody is watching you tonight, said, "Man, I want to do what Anthony did." Um, what are the three things that somebody, you mentioned a little bit, but just to some big things that you would tell somebody, you would tell young Anthony 10 years ago, do these things?
Yeah, I mean that's a good one. So one, I think the biggest thing is to lead with your heart. So and that there's a lot that goes in that, but identifying where you want to be and just lead with your heart. Be as genuine as you can in all your affairs. And and I owe a ton. Uh, there's a ton of gratitude in me for guys like you, Caesar, local people in my area, Jason Toomey being a big one, just in different coaches I've had that really made it very easy for me. I mean, I feel like all you guys did, you made it very easy for me to set a goal, see what a chimney company could be like, what it could look like. And so I think that's part of it too, is take the risk to hire a coach, to reach out and ask questions, make the investment in going into training. I mean, that was when things changed for me, was training and education. Like that's when a real light bulb went off in my head. I had the motivation because I saw you guys, your websites on TV, how people talked about you. But once I made the investment into training, education, coaches, that's when stuff started going. And so that's the other big one, is be vulnerable, right? That you don't know all the answers. Allow people to make the mistakes, and it invite. There's a wealth of knowledge in our industry. I compare it to other industries. I tell them how it is in the chimney industry. The chimney industry does really well with supporting from within,
Yeah.
and laying out the groundwork for whatever you want to do. You want to stay small and be more profitable. You want to grow and be profitable. It's all there. It makes it very easy. And then third, probably the biggest thing I've learned in the last year is the balance of it too. Like great to grow, great to dive in, but don't lose sight of family. Of like, and that was a big one for me. Like I was so caught up in like growing the business, and that was my image, that was my identity, that's what I wanted to do. That I kind of put being a husband and father kind of one step down, because I thought the business owner made me a better husband and father. This year, I realized that's who I am. It's like I am the husband, I am the father. When those are the priority, it makes me that much better of a leader at work. And so,
That's so good. You're so right.
yeah,
Yeah. Those are great. So, I'll tell you though, all those things you said, some people might be watching and go, well, I do all that. I don't have the same results. I can tell you this, looking from an outsider, the things that you said, there's just one more factor to them, is that you do something with it. There's a
oh,
lot of people that sat in those same classes you were in that are not where you are. They went
yeah,
to those same events. They listened to the exact same words, yet have very different results in their businesses. And when I watch you, I'm watching a guy that actually takes all that and gives it a shot,
yeah.
like puts it in play. That to me is what makes you different. And I enjoy watching you do that. You were getting ready to say something when I said the execution part.
That's yeah. You know what it was too? I don't know if it was you. It was one of the trainings I was in, and they were like, by the time you leave here, you're gonna forget X amount of what was said, and then if you wait a week, you're gonna lose X amount of what was said. And so back to that chip thing, I was like, well, I'm not gonna freaking be the 90% that loses, like. So I just I would go through and I would definitely take notes because I forget a lot of stuff.
You do take a lot of notes. I
Yeah,
watched you in the classes, dude. You have a lot of notes.
I forget. And what's nice with note taking is I remember down the line. I remember writing it, hearing it and writing it. So a lot of what I learn at trainings, conventions, etc., like I don't put into place right away. Some I do, but then some is like down the line. I see the opportunity. I remember
Yes.
writing it on the notepad. I remember hearing it, and boom, now's the time to do
Yeah.
it.
And it also is exposure to it. When you write that down, I talk about this a lot when people come visit me or I watch a class. The people writing stuff down are the people who are going to do something. There's no way you can sit there and remember it all. And
Yep.
then also, you wrote it down this time, and let's just say it's 5 years ago. You might hear it 3 more times before you can do something about it, but
Yep.
it's now ingrained, and now the time is right. There's no way, you always should just take a couple things back from these conventions and these things and do something about it. Some people, I ask, Drew Stein. Do you know Drew?
Yeah. Yep.
So one time, several years ago, I talked to Drew because I wrote a book on how to do it. I try to give everybody everything I know to help you do it, but yet most people don't. And I said,
Yep.
why is that? And he said something that was brilliant one time. He said, man, they just want to know that you can do it. They don't want to do it themselves. They want to watch you do it, and they are not going to do it, but they want to know it can be done. They want to watch you do it. I'm like, that sounds crazy. That I would have never thought that, but I learned that he was very accurate in some people. But other people take that and you go, what? If one man can do it, I can do it. If one man can do it, another can do it. And that's how I am. I'm like Jim Brewer. He was my thing. I say it. I always give him credit because he set the first guidepost. And if I'm a guidepost for you, great, because you're going to be a guidepost for somebody. You already are a guidepost for somebody else, like Justin Feld, who's watching, and several others. You're becoming that guidepost.
Yeah.
Awesome. I mean, that's what we're here for, right? We're guideposts, and then until we plant the flag in the field of battle, and we're done. And man, go guys! Here's where I went to. You guys go. That's great. Couple more things. Justin says, great stuff. Amen. Right person, right seat. Yeah, totally it. And like you said, sometimes you cut a seat in half and make a thing. Don't do it too much. Don't make too many rules that, like he said, because sometimes you can try to be put a toxic person somewhere so they're not too toxic. Matt, the guy who asked the question. So thank you, Matt, he said, that's okay. I appreciate the answer. Also, all leadership knowledge experience is awesome. Thank you guys. And then Matt knows Drew Stein. So, okay. So Matt, I don't know you. I'd like to get to know you. Obviously you're in the business. So, so great. Well, man, we're wrapping up. Anything else you'd like to, what do you got planned for the holidays? What are you guys going to do?
Oh boy. So, well, work-wise, I mean, we got a little potluck Thanksgiving meal we're doing here this Friday. Off that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Thanksgiving. And then my wife, because I wanted to buy a new snowmobile, she was like, well, the only way that's going to happen is if we go to Disney. So that's what we're doing, December 8th through the 16th.
Give and take.
Yeah. So that's it, man. Just, I give everyone that week off, Christmas, just before Christmas Eve till after New Year. So that's our downtime.
Oh yeah.
We focus on family and that's it. So spend time with family, definitely eat good food and just be present. So
yeah, be present. That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's the challenge, man. Be present.
Yeah.
Man, thank you so much for your time. Go eat your cold ass food and enjoy your great family. And I appreciate your time. Appreciate what you do for this industry, and keep up the good work, man.
Likewise. Thanks, Mark. It's definitely an honor being on here. And I appreciate all you've done for me and others.
Yeah.
Goes both
Well, dude, you make people proud. So
cool.
Keep up the good work. Thanks, man. Have a good night.
You too.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I got a little teary-eyed. I love talking to real guys, and I think that's interesting about our industry. It's a lot of real guys out there just trying to make it happen, taking the punches, getting the hits, trying to celebrate the wins, and not hurt us too bad while we do it. Hopefully we're all learning. So thank you guys for all your comments. Thank you for being part of this show. We will do it again next Tuesday night before Thanksgiving. I actually will leave on Wednesday to go see my family up in Indiana. Excited to see that. Hope you guys have plans and enjoy your time. Make sure you take care of yourself, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks, guys. See you later. Bye.